everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
I'm so used to that, to get a response. So thank you. Thank you for the response. Actually, that's what we're looking for, right? For a response. Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to especially thank Indivisible CD16 for organizing this vigil in support of the strikers who are inside this church. My name is Janet Fry. I work for the Community Resource Center, but I'm also working for this coalition, the Fund for Excluded Workers Coalition, which is a statewide coalition. And in this coalition also, organizations such New York Immigration Coalition, Younger Sanctuary Movement, Neighbors Link, United Community Center of Westchester, Don Bosco Workers, Obreros Unidos, and a number of organizations that are not only striking in Westchester, but also in New York City. And I think you already know why we are here, why we're doing this action. And I'd just like to say that doing a hunger strike is not an easy decision. Putting your body, through a hunger strike, believe me, it's not an easy decision. Not only for us, but also our families. But our immigrant workers have been starving for more than a year. They didn't make that decision. They were forced to do it. After the government excluded them from economic relief, from the stimulus money, after they couldn't access the unemployment benefit just because lack of immigration status, they have been, their life depend on food pantries, charity, maybe thinking that they're gonna get hours of work. So I don't know how they are surviving this pandemic, but we cannot be silent anymore. And I'm glad that you're here because you're also not silent. You're actually speaking with us to this legislature, to Governor Cuomo, who right now is talking to his peers to see whether he includes the Fund for Excluded Workers in his budget. He came out 2 days ago saying that he won't make any changes. And we know that's not an option. We know that Senate Majority Leader Andres Stewart Cousins is already prioritizing the Fund for Excluded Workers. We know the Assembly, Cora Hasty, is already prioritizing. They already included the Fund for Excluded Workers in their budget. They just have to make it happen. Because if they really are for New York, regardless, immigrant, non-immigrant, immigration status, difference in socioeconomic classes, they have to do the right thing now. Because we're not going into another year like this. Our families, our excluded workers, also individuals who have been recently released from incarceration and they haven't had a chance to get back on their feet, to get employment, they also need help. We are a society, New York is an economy that depends on everyone to do its part. It's not just immigrants or the ones who are working from home remotely, right? We wish our community who have that option. But they didn't. So thank you. Thank you for being here, showing support. Our strikers are inside, tired. Tired because the fight hasn't been just since March 16th or since March 18th. It has been since last year. So if you have seen us on the bridges in New York City, it's because we just couldn't, stay sitting down waiting. If you have seen us marching on Cuomo Bridge, it's because our community is now speaking and they want to be heard, they want to be seen that there are many, more than 1 million workers has been excluded. And that's not right. So this is the time to do the right thing. So thank you for being here. I'd like to take 2 minutes of silence for the workers who have lost their life during the pandemic. They didn't have a choice to quarantine. They actually, because they needed to feed their families, in the middle of April of last year, they went out and exposed themselves to the virus without PPEs, without safety equipment. They just went in, got infected, no health insurance, not having the ability to be in a hospital because their families needed to be fed. We only have 2 here because it's painful to put all of them here. So I just want to take 2 minutes, and if someone can help me with the time, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to introduce a number of supporters who are going to share with us why they're here, why they support the Fund for Excluded Workers. I'd like to invite Judy McIntyre. Can you hear me through all my mask? Yes.
I'm Judy McQuistion. I'm one of 3 co-chairs of the Immigration Justice Committee of NYCD 16 Indivisible, but I'm here today representing the entire Indivisible group. Our mission at Indivisible is to serve as a home and operational base for progressive-minded constituents of Congressional District 16, and to collaborate at the local, state, and federal levels to take meaningful political action together. Our goal is to continue to fight for justice and social change, holding our democratic elected officials accountable and opposing the extremist and anti-democratic actions of the Republican Party. Our group today is here as allies, demanding that our legislature adequately fund this excluded worker fund. We are demanding that $3.5 billion be allocated to the fund so that our immigrant community can survive. We are demanding that our neighbors who have been providing essential services all this year be compensated so that they worked so the rest of us could stay home and avoid COVID-19. The one house budget at this point, I believe, is allocated $2.1 billion, but it's not enough. We need to make sure that excluded workers get the same amount as their fellow New Yorkers who receive state and federal support. We are talking about 500,000 undocumented workers who are paying over $140,000 into our tax system, but yet don't get any kind of unemployment. And we're talking about 40,000 New Yorkers who have recently been released from prison or immigration detention. It is our responsibility to correct this. I am pleading with you, demanding that you call your assembly members, call your state senators, call Senator Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousin, and now Andrew Cuomo. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So now I'd like to invite Bruce Tischler from Indivisible, New Rochelle.
Thank you. As a co-leader of the immigration rights team of Indivisible New Rochelle, I come today to support the strikers and support their demands, support the attempt on the part of so many people to raise this issue to the attention of our representatives in Albany, and to work to encourage you to be in touch with them also, or our state senators and our state assembly people, to stay strong in negotiation with Governor Cuomo about this fund for excluded workers. $3.5 billion is needed. $2.1 billion is not enough. And anything less than that, which appears to be what the governor is interested in, is obscene. It's time that we turn this around and begin to provide the kind of benefits that are needed in order to provide food on the table and all of the back rent that's been piling up for so many people, and recognizing that when excluded workers are not eligible for unemployment, not eligible for stimulus payments from the federal government, that's wrong, just plain wrong, and we need to right that wrong by providing this fund for excluded workers. So I encourage each of you to be reaching out to your representatives in Albany, encouraging them to support the demand for $3.5 billion in the state budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Remember that amount, $3.5 billion. I'd like to invite now Maria Trusa, CEO of Forme. I just want to say that thanks to Maria's team, the strikers have been striking safely.
I want to say that I've been very, very privileged to have an amazing career, an amazing life in the United States. And I am an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. And I know what this community suffers. I personally spoke with many of them. I will never forget when I was in my house and I get a call from a funeral home asking one of our doctors to go and sign a death certificate. That story was repeated over and over again. We have thousands of immigrants at Forme. And it is hard for me to stand here and speak and not be emotional about this, because this is the community that we love. This is the community that we support. And I personally was a striker yesterday, and it was an honor for me to be there with the other strikers and hear the support from these amazing people that love this community. And I want to say that we have to make a difference. We have to unite together. $3.5 billion is needed and is demanded. We need to make sure that they hear our voice, that we become the voice for the voiceless, because this community does not have a voice, but they will have a voice if they have people like us standing right next to them and fighting for them. It is a privilege that I can have a medical center, Forme Medical Center, that we can support you guys until the end. We will be here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. The support is felt. Now, I'd like to invite Peter Bernstein, Irvington activist.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Question, what do we want? And when do we want it? Now. ¿Qué queremos? ¿Cuándo? Ahora. Bueno. My name is Peter Bernstein. I'm on the steering committee of the Irvington Activists and the board of Community Voices Heard. And we stand in solidarity with Yonkers Sanctuary Movement, with Community Resource Center, with Make the Road, with Obreros Unidos, with Don Bosco, with Neighbors Link, with the New York Immigration Coalition, and everybody demanding that New York State fight to fund excluded workers. There is no excuse for failing to provide unemployment, stimulus benefits, and health care to all families who live in New York State. Politicians say that the state can't afford the $3.5 billion that we need to fund excluded workers. That is bullshit.
Yes.
New York State is home to 120 billionaires. Those 120 individuals saw their wealth increase by $156 billion in the last 10 months alone, while we all were suffering with the pandemic. The $3.5 million that we are demanding go to excluded workers and their families is about 2% of just the money that those 120 people made in the last year. There are so many ways that Albany can increase tax revenues on the wealthy to meet the needs of all New Yorkers. Our country spends over $2 billion a day on military spending. It's a matter of priorities and political will, not a scarcity of resources as to where money goes, where our tax money goes, all our tax money. My four grandparents came to this country 100 years ago without visas, without speaking English, and with no money. Every group of people in the United States, other than indigenous people and enslaved Africans, came here to build a better life for their families. We are a country of immigrants, and the contributions of immigrants to our communities are essential. We fought together and won the Green Light campaign for driver's licenses, because when we fight, we win. Today we are fighting to fund excluded workers, but the bigger fight is for the dignity and respect that will only come with true comprehensive reform. When leaders like Deanna and Janet and Vanessa and Lupe and all the wonderful hunger strikers ask us to get on those buses to Albany, to get on those buses to Washington, D.C., let's fill those buses. One more time, what do we want? When do we want it?
Now.
¿Qué queremos?
3.5 millones.
¿Cuándo?
Ahora.
Bueno, gracias.
Thank you, Peter. So now I'd like to invite Beverly Sherry from Worcester Immigrant Defense Group.
Hello, am I on? Okay, I am from Worcester Immigrant Defense. We're a group of volunteers who work on the ground with individual undocumented families. And we have worked with quite a few of these right through the pandemic. These are people who work hard. They hold 2 and 3 jobs trying to keep things together. They're here raising their families. They pay their taxes. They contribute to their community and to their churches. But they have no pathway to citizenship, and consequently, they're not eligible for the benefits that American workers get, the benefits or the protections. In other times when things are tough, they find odd jobs, they rely on a network of friends and family. But these are not normal times, and that just has been, everyone has been in trouble. These are restaurant workers, these are domestic workers, these are day laborers, and they have all been out of work for a year. They have no safety net. There's a patchwork of nonprofits which are struggling to try and help them pay their rent, get food, meet other basic human needs. But it is a struggle, and it's overwhelming. Only the state has the ability to raise the amount of money that we need to build a fund that will compensate them for their lost wages during this period of time. And so the hunger strikers inside the church and all of us out here are pleading with our state lawmakers and our elected officials. Create a fund large enough to compensate the excluded workers for all of their lost earnings in these unprecedented times. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. So now I'd like to pass the mic to Stephanie Nolly from White Plains Still Dreaming. Stephanie, you?
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Stephanie. I am the founder and leader of White Plains Still Dreaming, and we started right when this pandemic hit. We are a grassroots organization, and believe it or not, we started with 8 others who were high school graduates and 2 White Plains teachers. And so we're here in support of our friends, the Yonkers Sanctuary Movement, along with many other organizations who are here for this cause. And let me tell you, we saw the impact of COVID straighthanded. Working with our community in White Plains, we saw it. We heard the voices of many in our community. We raised close to $20,000. When we put out that application for a mutual aid, we got over 400 families requesting. And when we can only help around 114, that broke our hearts. And I will tell you this, we have to keep pushing. They have their voices, and we gotta keep pushing so they are heard. And most importantly, to the mayor in the city, you told us you heard us, but you didn't listen. And now we're gonna make sure you hear us, because this is important. This is our community, and we're gonna fight for it. And we're gonna fight for them, and they're gonna know that they're not alone. So I will continue to say this, continue to push for all the organizations here. Thank you. Keep pushing. You've done amazing, but most importantly, listen to our community. They have their voices. They're letting us know what they need. It's unfortunate that to even say 8 graduate of high school from White Plains High School graduated, and to see the magnitude of this pandemic hit, we reached the peak, but they never left it. And that's the problem. They're still there, and people are still suffering. And so this is why I'm here today, to let you know that our community is seen, and they are visible, and they're letting us know. So that's why I'm saying, don't stop the fight, keep fighting, and we're here to our community. We are here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. So now I'd like to invite Evelyn Santiago from Westchester Hispanic Democrats. Woo!
Some tough acts to follow. Hello everyone and good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Santiago. I am a 30-year teacher of mostly immigrant children for whom I proudly continue to advocate within the White Plains community. I am also a member of several local organizations, including the White Plains Democratic Committee and the Hispanic Dems of Westchester, and I wanted to show my support for all of you here today. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the organizers of this hunger strike and vigil. You are shining a much-needed light on a dire situation for many of our residents. While most of us were working safely and remotely, so many were out there providing essential services to the rest of us. These are people from all walks of life. They are the restaurant workers who cooked our meals and enabled us to continue ordering food from home when the fear of shopping set in. They are the delivery people who brought that food to our doorsteps. They are the building service workers, like my husband, who has a building superintendent who has been working 7 days a week for the past year. All of these people provide services that eased our collective stress in very precarious times. And it took a very high toll on our community. The fact is that Black and brown people are almost twice as likely to become critically ill and die from COVID-19. Today, we remember those who paid the ultimate price. We honor those who have been taken away from us by COVID-19. We also gather to advocate on behalf of those who are still here. We want to ease the suffering that is yet to come because we owe them more than an empty seat at the table where their loved ones used to sit. We owe them more than an empty promise. Why should we care? As my mother would often say, mejor prevenir que lamentar. The human and economic cost is too great if we simply do nothing. We must help all the people who have not only worked to keep our lives running, but with whom we interact on a daily basis. They are the people at Dunkin' Donuts who kept our coffee warm. They are the beautiful faces of my students and their parents. They are the people we interact with daily. They are the people we love. That is why I urge you to support this effort. There are many competing issues in Albany for our New York State budget. For some, it may be very easy to look away, but you, the activists here today, refuse to look away while our community suffers. We have all made a conscious effort to advocate for our community so they may survive and eventually thrive after COVID. I urge everyone here to demand full funding for our forgotten workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. So now, I'd like to invite Noel D'Amico from Workers Circle.
Hi, I'm Noel D'Amico, Director of Social Justice at the Workers Circle, a Jewish social justice organization based in New York with members across the country who tonight are paying attention to workers who have been excluded and have put their bodies on the line in a hunger strike. Because New York State lawmakers have failed to do what is basic and conscionable, and that is ensure the dignity of every single New Yorker during this pandemic, regardless of status. They have refused to do that. You know, Passover is coming this weekend, and there's the great Passover story that is told from the position of the brickyard. That's who narrates that story. It's the story of those who have been most exploited, and how collectively they gather up, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened. They cried out, but Pharaoh did not hear their cries. How many months have excluded workers cried out, and it's fallen on the deaf ears of Governor Cuomo? He has been inured, absolutely refused to include workers that have been excluded in COVID relief. But we know how that Passover story ends. We know how it ends. And it ends with workers, those who were most exploited, finding that path to liberation. And it's something we do together. So, my friends, tonight, I am so proud to be standing together with you as we make a way where there is no way, as we demand $3.5 billion in this year's coming budget for workers who have been excluded. I fasted for 3 days together with the workers. And what I can tell you is they were 3 of the most profound days of my life. Because when you fast, you make yourself vulnerable, and it opens you up in this really incredible way, whether you do it for 1 day or multiple days. And I will remind you that there are people who have been on hunger strike now and are continuing to go. What is this, day 10 today? Day 10 without food. What we are creating tonight is the power we need in order to create the New York we must have. And so I am proud to stand with all of you and with the hunger striking workers. And we will keep crying out until Pharaoh's heart is broken.
Thank you, Noel, for your words. And I just want to say, and I want to thank Pastor Jeff for allowing us to do the hunger strike, his church. Thank you for your kindness, your support. Actually, I can't thank you enough. So now, I'd like to invite County Legislator Vedat Gashi. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. It's a tremendous honor to be here in support and in solidarity with people who are giving their own health, their own lives for such an important cause. This pandemic has had a terrible toll. It's taken a terrible toll on our entire community, everybody. And we've recognized that. One of the good things to come out of it has been a recognition of essential workers. A recognition of the people that work in our grocery stores, that clean, that work in our restaurants, that allow us to have the lives that we do. As we recognize and say we respect essential workers, we neglect the excluded workers. We neglect the people that don't have citizenship. People who are paying taxes, people who are contributing to our society, and people who are a part of our community, and people who we are seeing are hurt at a disproportionately high level. You know, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Kosovo, moved to the U.S. when I was 4, and we weren't documented initially. The reason we became citizens is because of in 1984, Ronald Reagan passed the Immigration Reform Act. We need help for this community now, but we need help now, but we also need to recognize that the reason they need help is because we do not have a path to citizenship. And it's incredibly important that the people here today can have the advantage that I had growing up of having a path to citizenship. something that they've been denied and something that allows them to be excluded and exploited still. This past year, I was elected to the Westchester County Legislature, and I remember during the campaign, they kept telling me I became the first Muslim member of the Westchester County Legislature. Thank you, and I was also the first Albanian American elected to the county legislature. And there'd be times where people would tell me that you were the Albanian American candidate or the Muslim candidate, and I would always fight against that. I am not those things. I'm running as a representative of this community, as a part of this community. And this community includes Muslims, includes immigrants, it includes a whole lot of people, and frankly, a lot of them that are being ignored right now. And I am so thankful for all the work that you guys are doing here. I am privileged and honored to be a part of it, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, County Legislator. So now I'd like to invite Rachel Straub. She's the representative of Senator Shelley Mayer.
Thank you very much. I'm Rachel Straub, and I'm Senator Mayer's Chief of Staff. She knows very well how much the excluded workers have done throughout the pandemic and, quite honestly, long before the pandemic. And she is quite happy she wishes she could be here, and she sent me on her behalf. And she was pleased that the Senate and the Assembly included funding for the excluded workers. She knows there's more work to do, but she and her colleagues are pushing to make sure that the excluded workers get the most that they possibly can and are entitled to. So she's incredibly appreciative of the work and the advocacy that you all have done, and those who are on the strike. And thank you for having me, and we will push on. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you all who spoke and shared their stories and also the reasons why this should be passed, this should be reality. And now, a very important moment, I'd like to invite our strikers. Can you please come here? Citlali, Carlos, Sarai, Janet. So now Carlos is going to share his story.
Sí, buenas tardes. Esta situación me ha perjudicado a mí porque, primero que todo, los trabajadores están en las casas, las compañías los mandaron para la casa porque dijeron que no lo necesitaban. Según para ellos no somos trabajos esenciales, pero todo el trabajo, no importa el trabajo que se esté haciendo, o el que hagamos, o el que hagan, es esencial. Todo trabajo es esencial. Doesn't matter what kind of work you do, es essential work. ¿Qué podemos hacer? Hablar, es nuestro derecho. Es el derecho que tenemos para pedir, no para pedir, para reclamar en cualquier lugar donde estemos. So, that's all right. So we need it, we deserve, and we got the right just to talk, to fight and in good way. The good way, we can go anywhere. We can win anything. Yo estoy aquí representando a todos los compañeros, a todos los trabajadores que no pueden hablar, que no pueden o tienen miedo, pero nosotros los invitamos. We invite everybody. Don't be afraid. We have the right to talk. Everybody, every human being has the right to talk. Todos tenemos derecho a hablar. Arriba.
Gracias, Carlos. So now, Sarai is going to share her story.
Okay. Well, I'm from Connecticut, so maybe you think, what is she doing? What is she talk? Yes? Okay. I'm working in New York 3 years ago. So I think I've been working, I will support New York the last 3 years. When I was there, and it happened all this problem, I'm working by waitress in the restaurant. The work stopped. So everything is stopped in my life in that time, last year. And also, I have no money. I have to pay my rent, and I have to thinking, well, I have to back to home, and I back to Connecticut. So Connecticut, we had the same problem to here. We need support to those people too. So we are brothers, New York and Connecticut. And I want support for this. And we need that money, 3.5 billion, because I feel like we need it. Maybe I don't get nothing because my place is Connecticut, but I was working in New York. And I feel it, and I see that. And I was in the street, and I see the people walking in the street with no food. And I know how they feel, because I was working there. I was working with the community in Spanish Harlem, and I see the people. And then I had to come back to Connecticut. I work in my community. I help because that's my choice, my thing. And I say, we are the same. We are living in this country, and we need empathy. We need to see each other. We're the same. Nothing is to change. It's not the matter how we are. So we need to support. I support many people. I support from different ethnics, and I don't see that. I don't see the color. Only I see the soul, and I see the people suffering. I help, and that's the only thing we need to be. We need to have empathy. Thank you.
That's so important. We don't want our communities to leave New York. We just don't want that. So I'm sorry that I think we fail you somehow. So I'd like to invite Janet Hernandez.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Janet Hernandez, community organizer for the day labor program with Obreros Unidos de Yonkers. I'm here because I want to dedicate this hunger strike Vicente Flores, Ambrosio Ariza. They died last year. They were members of Obreros Unidos de Yonkers. Vicente was the members of Obreros Unidos board. He was fired for all the day laborers in Yonkers. That's why I am here. I want to dedicate, because every human being has the best. We are offering our life, because they were offering their life. They were paying the taxes. They were living in New York for many, many years. They were waiting for a job in Conner and Yonkers Avenue. That's why I am here, because we are offering all this hunger strike. We are offering our life. Yesterday, when I was start this hunger strike, I was writing. I was making the prayer. I want to dedicate all the essential workers and excluded workers. I wrote in Spanish. I don't know, maybe Diana can help me to translate. Señor, hemos sido durante muchos años esenciales y en esta pandemia hemos podido abrir nuestros ojos para darnos cuenta de que estamos excluidos. Hemos tenido hambre, dolor, soledad, miedo, pero hemos seguido de pie porque tenemos fe y esperanza. Por eso estamos aquí, en esta huelga de hambre, ofreciendo lo más valioso que tenemos, que es nuestra vida.
Lord, we have been here for many years, essential. And during this pandemic, we have opened our eyes and we have seen how excluded we are. We have hunger, pain, solitude, fear, but we have been on our feet because we have faith and hope. That's why we are here in this hunger strike, offering the hunger and the most valuable things that we have, which is our lives.
Señor, tú nos enseñaste a entregarnos. Tú nos enseñaste que nuestras voces deben ser colectivas. Nuestras esperanzas deben ser colectivas. Nuestras oraciones y acciones deben ser colectivas para poder alcanzar la justicia, porque solo no podemos salir de esta situación de sufrimiento.
Lord, you have shown us to give it all, to give ourselves to you. You have showed us that our voices must be collective. You have shown us that hope should be collective, that our prayers and actions should be collective, so we can reach justice, because only we will fight through in this situation through suffrage by being in collective.
Nuestro grito es el grito de los apóstoles que le dicen a Jesús, nos estamos hundiendo, cuando estaban en la barca. Es el grito de los excluidos, es el grito de los pobres, es el grito de los que se fueron sin despedirse, es el grito de los que se han quedado sin hogar, de los que se han quedado sin trabajo, de los que están enfermos. Es el grito de los que clamamos justicia, porque una nueva normalidad no puede venir sin justicia, sin dignidad y sin respeto.
Our fight and our scream is the same as the apostles that would say that Jesus was making us go under deep when he was in the ship, when the ship was about to sink. This is the fight and this is a scream of the workers who are excluded. This is a scream of the poor
This is a scream of many who left without saying goodbye. This is the scream that has been without any shelter, any home. The ones that who no longer have any jobs, the ones that are sick. That's why we scream for justice, because the new normality has come without giving us justice, without dignity and without respect.
Señor, danos la fuerza que necesitamos para seguir luchando, seguir de pie y que nuestras voces y nuestra demanda sea escuchada. Necesitamos que el Estado de Nueva York crea este fondo para cubrir nuestras necesidades básicas y vivir con dignidad y respeto.
Lord, give us strength that we need it so we could continue fighting, so we could continue to be in our feet, that our voices and our demands are met and listened. We need that the state of New York to create the fund so they could cover our necessities, our basic necessities, to live with dignity and respect. Amen. I just wanted to take a moment, because that's a picture of my uncle. And our family found out he had passed away through a GoFundMe. We didn't even get to say goodbye. And I know my cousin, if she's seeing this, she's probably heartbroken. For us as organizers, we don't do this for fame. We do it because it affects us. We had so many GoFundMe, so many organizations that we pushed, and we depended from everyone to donate. She herself, when she saw the picture of her dad through GoFund, she was upset because his brother had created it. And for all of us, it was a big, upsetting time to see it. I honestly didn't want to see the picture yet. But I do understand that he was part of Obreros Unidos, and I found out many things when he passed away. I want to honor him because I learned that he was a leader from here. It's heartbreaking. And I can't longer say that we are sick and tired of seeing more pictures, more GoFunds. And this government continues to put them aside. We're tired of that. And that's why it's important for you guys to keep pushing, because those 3.5 billion are nothing compared to his life and the lives of so many. 3.5 million are not enough, but we're willing to settle for 3.5 billion. It will never bring us back everyone we lost and everyone who will continue losing, because at the end of the day, they contribute and they contribute their life.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now I'd like to invite Vanessa.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. As you can see, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering in our community. And this is pain and suffering that our community members have been feeling heavily during this pandemic, but we must acknowledge that they've been feeling it prior to this pandemic for many generations. And until we, like many have said, until we finally have comprehensive immigration reform, until we treat every single human being on this country as equal, we're going to get what we've gotten now, and those are injustices, inequalities, where certain people are suffering while others are making billions on the back of our workers. So I just want to thank the strikers, all of them here, all of them that have striked with us since last Thursday, for putting your bodies on the line, especially those of you who are workers, who are directly impacted. This is a very draining experience, but it's also filling us all with so much hope. And what makes me feel especially hopeful is knowing that we are being held with our community, especially our allies. Like, let's give it up to our allies who put this vigil together. Those organizations who may not be directly impacted by these issues, but they see it every day. They see their neighbors suffering. They see their friends, their colleagues, those people they interact with, and they're saying and standing up that enough is enough. And we so appreciate that, because we cannot do this alone. And there's only a limited capacity we all have, right? So it's going to take every single one of us continuing to put pressure on the state government to demand that we get the $3.5 billion that we deserve. So that's why, and we as organizers, we as folks who have been working on this campaign for over a year now, we know that we're not just doing this in vain. We're not just doing this to cause a ruckus or to get attention. We know that what we're doing is putting pressure on those who need to respond. Those legislators are in a position of power to grant our community members this access to relief that every other laborer in New York State has. They have that power, and they must respond to our calls. They must respond to our cries. So that's why before we close up this action, I want everyone to take out their phones. The only way that we are going to win this fight and win fights to come is if we stand together in solidarity and we organize and we make sure that every single one of our voices is heard. So that's why I'm going to ask everyone to give Majority Leader State Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins a call. It's after office hours, so you're going to get a voicemail, but I want you all to tell her who you are, what your name is, where you live, and tell her why she must ensure that $3.5 billion is in this budget. So I'm going to give everyone the phone number to dial. 914-423-4031. That is 914-423-4031. Lo voy a decir en español. 914-423-4031. And we must let her know that we won't stand for anything except equality, what is on par with what every other New Yorker is getting in this state. That means $3.5 billion for our community members so that we can ensure that they have the ability to get out of rent arrears, so they are not facing the dire financial hardship. And to be frank, this is not going to be enough to dig a lot of our communities out. We're going to need more, but this is the bare minimum that we're asking, and it shouldn't be a hesitation for her to give us that bare minimum. So please make that call, leave a message, and ask your neighbors, your family members, those of you who especially if you're in her district, to do the same. Thank you all so much for coming out today. I want to thank the organizers, and to all the strikers and all of you, please continue to put pressure on our legislators, on state governments. We have until April 1st to win this. Thank you.